Hello there, everybody. CB here, and welcome to part 3 of the Ice Age Review miniseries. Today, since, it is part 3, we're going to be taking a look at the third installment in the franchise, known as Dawn of the Dinosaurs. This movie came out on July 4th, 2009. It was the first film in the Ice Age franchise to be released in 3D, and while some could argue that it could have just ended with this movie, that didn't really happen, but I'll save that towards the end. So, let's talk about the film's history. The idea for this movie came from when the crew at Blue Sky was thinking, what if we made an Ice Age film that actually didn't take place in the Ice Age, but instead took place in another world? You have to remember, the real Ice Age was thousands of years ago. So it is possible the dinosaurs actually did exist around that time. And that's exactly where this movie mostly takes place, in another prehistoric world where dinosaurs actually exist. Pretty interesting concept, right? Well, this movie actually went well with it. They did a pretty good job with it. I know I'd usually say that at the end of the review. I do apologize for jumping the gun a little bit, but yeah. So that was the film's history. Now let's get into the story of it. Just like the first two films, it opens up with Scrat finding his acorn. Yes, he did bury it in the first one and in the second one. Well, actually, he tried to bury it in the first one, and the second one he tried to get it back. In this one, he stumbles across a female squirrel named Scratay, who just so happens to also like the acorn. This makes Scrat jealous of her, and as the two fight, Scrat, of course, falls as Scratay flies. Yes, she's a flying squirrel. Anyways, the side plot of this movie is Manny telling everyone that he and Ellie are having a baby. Of course, Sid and Diego and Crash and Eddie are very happy for him. Diego especially. Unfortunately, Diego suggests that maybe it's best if he decides to move away from them. Kind of move on. And he even tells Sid that maybe he should do the same. Sid, of course, reluctantly does so, but thinks that he should have a family of his own. After all, he did get left behind by his family in the first film, so it would make sense in some way. Luckily for Sid, he stumbles across 3 eggs hidden inside, I guess it's a cavern? I'm not sure. He finds them, and since he thinks that nobody else is there, he decides to take the eggs as his own. After chasing them down through a crazy snowy hill, Manny and Ellie suggest that Sid should take the eggs back since they tell him that they don't belong to him. Sid, of course, does, but then decides to keep them anyway, still thinking he could raise his own children. The next morning, the eggs are hatched, and it is revealed that they are 3 baby Tyrannosaurus Rexes. Sid, of course, ends up having fun with them, but when he shows them the playground that Manny made, he at first decides that they shouldn't go in. However, after realizing that they're kids, he lets them in anyway. Unfortunately for Sid, a bunch of other kids notice the door is open, and they decide to go in as well. Sid, of course, tries to stop, but the dinosaurs and some of the kids end up destroying everything. Much to Manny's anger, he orders Sid to take the kids back just like before. Unfortunately for Sid and, pretty much everybody else, a huge Tyrannosaurus Rex, who turns out to be the baby T-Rex's mom, arrives and demands to get the kids back. Sid, of course, tells her no, but she ends up taking him along with her children anyway. This, of course, causes Ellie, Manny, Crash, and Eddie to go after him, and Diego also comes along for the ride to help save Sid. It turns out that they were living above another world, the land of the dinosaurs. As they approach this new place, a new character, Buck, voiced by Simon Pegg, decides to help them on their quest. Buck is an adventurous weasel, and he really loves living in this land of the dinosaurs. In order to find Sid, they have to go to Lava Falls. because that's where the mother T-Rex is taking her children. In order to get there, they have to go through 3 different areas: the Jungle of Misery, the Chasm of Death, and the Plates of Woe. They managed to, of course, get there on time, but unfortunately for Sid, he ends up stuck on Lava Lake. Luckily for him, Buck, along with Crash and Eddie, riding a pterodactyl, decides to go save him. Meanwhile, Ellie, of course, is trapped on top of a ledge and, of course, is about to give childbirth. Diego helps her with it, and when Manny finally gets to the top, he sees Ellie's child, who turns out to be a baby girl mammoth. They name it Peaches. Well, the reason for that is because, as Manny and Ellie both say, peaches are soft and round and fuzzy, just like they are. To make things better, Buck, Crash, and Eddie arrive with Sid, and of course, Manny is happy that Sid is okay. After this, the gang finally decides to head back home, but before they can do that, they have to encounter one of the biggest dinosaurs in all the land, Rudy, who I think is Buck's rival. For those who don't know, Rudy was the one that clawed Buck's right eye, so that's why he wears a leaf as an eye patch. They, of course, manage to defeat him, but after Sid accidentally releases the vines that were securing Rudy into place, Mama T-Rex comes in and defeats him, much to Buck's shock, I guess. After the battle is over, Sid says goodbye to the mom and her babies, and the gang, of course, heads out. However, after Buck hears Rudy's roar, which makes him believe that he's still alive, he decides to live with the land of the dinosaurs once again. The film, of course, ends with Sid, Manny, Diego, Ellie, Crash, and Eddie now having a fun time with their new member of the family named Peaches. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say the movie ends there? I almost forgot. The movie actually ends with Scrat and his girlfriend, I guess, Scratay, building their own home. However, for Scrat, he sees the acorn and decides to fall in love with that. But, unfortunately for him, Scratay takes it and stomps it into the ground, just like what Scrat did in the first one. Due to this, though, a chunk of rock, of course, breaks from it, flying in the sky like a rocket, but Scrat decides to grab the acorn and have it all to himself. Unfortunately, the huge chunk of ice that broke out when the piece of rock broke through it causes Scrat to lose his acorn. Scrat, of course, is upset by this and starts screaming as the film comes to an end, with Sid and some of the other characters having a dance party over the credits. So, that was my review on Ice Age: Dawn of the Dinosaurs. What are my thoughts on this one? Well, kind of like The Meltdown, this one was pretty good. Not as good as the first one, but surprisingly a little bit better because it doesn't take place above the ice. It actually kind of takes place under the ice instead, for the most part. And I'll admit, the animation again has gotten better. And especially in a land like this, we get to see a bunch of dinosaurs in a really beautiful looking scenery. And yeah, it looks really good. Of course, we have some of the characters. We have Sid, once again, played by John Leguizamo, who, while still pretty funny at times, he can also be still clumsy, of course. We have Manny, once again, played by Ray Romano, who is a little overprotective in this one. Sort of, I think. We have Diego, once again, played by Dennis Leary, who, as I said in the review, thinks it's best to move on, but he decides to come back with the gang anyway in order to save Sid. Then we have Ellie, once again, voiced by Queen Latifah, who actually does have a pretty good development in this movie, in case you haven't seen my review of the second one. Then we have her Possum brothers, Crash and Eddie, voiced by William Scott and Josh Peck. They are, of course, still somewhat annoying, but with them joining Buck, they seem to be having a lot of fun with him. As, let's was it Crash? I think it was, yeah, it was Crash. He said that Buck was like the brother they never had. And honestly, they get along pretty well. And then, of course, there's, well, Buck himself, once again played by Simon Pegg. And I gotta say, Buck is one of my favorite characters in this movie. You could tell how much fun Simon Pegg had while recording his lines as Buck. I'm sure he had a lot of fun doing it. And then, of course, there's Scrat, once again played by Chris Wedge. And then there's his girlfriend, Scratay. I don't know who voices Scratay. Some people, I think, are kind of mixed on the idea of him having a girlfriend. And I can see why. I mean, I don't really have a problem with it, but I will agree by saying it was kind of unnecessary. So, yeah. Of course, there's the story itself. The story is actually a lot of fun. It was really nice to actually see a new environment in the Ice Age franchise. Again, like I said, rather than just taking place in the land of the ice, it takes place in a world underneath it. And it really looks good. It looks really nice. Especially with that battle at the end when they're fighting against Rudy. It's a pretty climactic battle, and it actually felt like a good way to end the franchise. Had they ended it here, it would have been a good way to wrap it up. But that's not what actually happened. Because of how much money this movie made, Fox decided that maybe they should make another one. Oh, yeah. That's right, folks. We're going there. Join me tomorrow when we talk about Ice Age Continental Drift. Oh, man. This is not going to be pretty. See you tomorrow, everyone.